Howdy everybody, how's it going? For today's video, I am showing you the process of making the Olga sweater by Petite Knits. Here's the pattern, here's what it looks like. And as you can see, I'm currently wearing it. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sabina, I'm the left-handed alchemist, and the whole point of this channel is to take you through the creative process with me. I am a multi-passionate artist. I dabble in jewelry, I dabble in fibers, I dabble in painting and drawing, and just really anywhere that the wind takes me, I go. And I make a video about it and I share the creative process with you in the hopes that you will then have the courage to live a creative life as well. It's very fun, it's very fulfilling, and I think everybody should have a hand at creativity in ways that calls to them. The whole process of this was not like linear. I would say it did not start with my idea to make this specific sweater and end with the creation of this specific sweater. It started with an idea, with the wild hair. I went on vacation to Missoula, Montana to go visit some family. I, naturally had to stop by a yarn store because when in Montana, there's gotta be yarn abound. So I went to the Joseph's Coat. Go check them out. Their selection was great. I found this magnificent Targhee wool that was grown, sheared, spun, and dyed in Montana. Here is the information for that if anybody's interested. When I was in the store, I didn't really have a project in mind. I had no idea what I was going to create. I initially thought I wanted to create the Forever Sweater by Spectacle Strike. I love their designs. I've knit a couple of things from them and it's great time. Planning on knitting more from them. The thing is, I didn't exactly know what yarn I needed for the project, as I am still quite new at this whole knitting thing. This is actually the 5th sweater that I've ever created, so that'll give you an idea of how new I am at this whole thing. There's just still so much to learn. As you will see in this video, I go on a whole journey with tension and gauging, and it's just, I start over a lot. And I wanted to be very transparent with you in the beginning of this video that this isn't just like a I knit the Olga sweater and it's all just like fun and peaceful and happy, because I couldn't make up my mind to begin with. Couldn't decide which pattern I wanted to create, so I picked the Forever sweater. When I'm buying the wool at the store, they don't have all the same color and enough yardage to actually get the sweater made. So I bought 2 different colors, thinking, having in my head like a striped sweater situation. But the Forever sweater is a turtleneck, and I've never knit a turtleneck. I've never worn a turtleneck that I've loved. And there's just, I have the kind of neurodivergency where when things touch my neck in a weird and uncomfortable way, I freak out. Like when my hair is static clung to my neck, I freak out. And so some scratchy wool constantly on my neck, I decided after multiple times of starting over that it just wasn't gonna work. You'll see, I go back to the drawing board and then I finally land on the Olga sweater. It's a different construction style than I've ever done before. I wanted to learn something new. It was designed for stripes. It was designed for the same weight of yarn that I have, and ended up being a success. So you'll see through the process of this video me making a sweater. You'll also see me starting over a bunch of times, and I think that that is just the realness sometimes of fiber crafts, and it's a very forgiving material. You can start over a bunch, and you can get a lot of practice with the same materials before you finally land on the final product, which you can see currently on my body. I'll talk about everything that I learned and my takeaways from the project in the outro of this video, so stick around to the end for that. Without further ado, this is the creation of the Olga sweater by Petite Knits. So for this project, I actually ended up buying a yarn swift and cake winder, and oh my god, you guys, it was worth every penny. I'm so sorry. I am not going to be one to tell you to like buy every tool because it's not entirely necessary. You can in fact get the job done by hand. It just takes forever. And then when you're doing sweater quantities worth of yarn, it really takes forever. Like it would take like a couple of days to cake all of this yarn and wind it up and make it something that you can actually use, because you cannot knit it from the actual, what is it, like the skein, the twisty baguette looking thing, the hollow looking thing, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't knit from that, it'll be a tangled nightmare. So you do at least have to wind it into a ball. And I love a center pole because I can put it in my little knitting bag and I don't have a ball of yarn bobbling everywhere. It's just like very contained and I love it. And what you can't see after this clip is me going and actually caking every ball of yarn that I own. It took me about 25 minutes to cake 5 balls of yarn. So I would say 45 minutes to do all of this. Hand caking 1 ball of yarn would take me like 45 minutes. So I would say it was worth the investment. Woo! I might cast on tonight. I casted it on 2 days ago. It's October 11th today, so I casted it on October 9th. You guys can see how long this takes, because I'm not gonna be the content creator who's like, I'm gonna knit this entire sweater in 1 week. Like, I just don't think that's realistic, considering I do other things too. It took me like days to figure out what I wanted to do for this sweater, because I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do the striping. Did I want the turtleneck to be striped as well as the body? I thought that maybe it would be too much stripes, but then the more I like envisioned what would like a solid neck and a striped body look like, I didn't like that. So I did decide to go with stripes. Here it is. Okay, so it's October 31st and I have sweater updates for you guys. Good news and bad news. Good news is I figured out how to do jogless stripes. Bad news, I figured out how to do jogless stripes after I already knitted this much. This much. And let me show you what we have. We have like a really defined line, basically down the entire thing, which isn't ultimately that big of a deal, except for these gigantic holes as a result of what I thought was correct jogless stripe knitting. This is supposed to be like a medium weight, fully wool, warm winter sweater. It's not supposed to be lacy, you know, it's not supposed to have those lacy elements. So I'm gonna frog it and start over. I'll let you guys know how the progress goes. Okay, so some decisions have been made. I have been in just a constant state of I don't know with this sweater since I got the yarn. Like, I couldn't resist buying the yarn. And then I went through this whole thing where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the weekend sweater by Spectacle Strick. This sweater, beautiful, beautiful sweater. Love the neckline, love the way like the turtleneck and like that like kind of folded over neckline situation. Can't resist a raglan. Beautiful, 10 out of 10, love it. I bought the gray and I bought the red yarn thinking I'm gonna make a striped sweater. I've restarted the sweater like 4 times. Like, I'm not even kidding. I've cast on the neckline of the sweater like 3 to 4 times. I don't even know anymore. And every time it's like, oh, it's the wrong size. It's the wrong tension. It's too long. Like, I made the first one where it was going to be like way too long. It was going to be a sensory nightmare. This wool yarn is a little bit scratchier than what I'm personally used to. And so I've spent a lot of money on this yarn. I spent a lot of time thinking about these things. And then it's like, to go into actually knitting a sweater that I won't wear is just something I really wanted to avoid. Time goes by, I end up deciding, okay, first things first, I'm going to finish the projects that I've already started. This Morgan sweater that I designed and made, and I made a whole video about it that you can find on my page. That was my priority. And I didn't finish that until literally the last day of 2024. So I've just been kind of sitting on this yarn thinking, what do I want to do with it now that I am free to make a sweater? This will be my 5th sweater I've ever made in my life. So I'm thinking I could do another raglan sweater. That's pretty much the only type of sweater construction that I've made up until this point. The thing is, I'm still so new in my knitting journey that I kind of want to construct something differently. So I went on Ravelry, I found some stuff. I was influenced, okay, you guys, I was influenced from someone on TikTok. I don't know what their account is, but we all know Petite knits. I've knit the Sophie scarf, I've knit the Sophie hood. Petite knits, she's just like a classic, whatever. She's kind of a big design name for the knitting world, at least right now. I don't know, maybe you don't know her. Check out her designs, they're very simple, easy to read, easy to understand. So I finally have made a decision. And I didn't want to cast on until I could sit down and like make this clip for you guys. Plus I had like books to read and stuff to do. So now's the time. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's snowing outside. I'm not going anywhere. What a better time to cast on a sweater than right now. So I am going to do the Olga sweater by Petite Knits. I love the way, like, It's striped, so it was designed to be a striped sweater, first and foremost. The materials that I have are what this sweater was designed for. Same weight and everything. I don't have to calculate how to turn a DK weight yarn into something for a worsted weight pattern. No extra thought has to go into gauging and needle size. Like, I'll make my swatch, obviously, but I'm gonna have more than enough yarn, and the sweater is designed for the yarn that I have. So makes it a little bit easier, especially since I am still quite novice. I can't remember because I started making this video in freaking September, but it's January now. January like 23rd, 22nd or 23rd. So now we're finally getting started on it. This beautiful Targhee wool that I found at a knitting store in Montana, Joseph's Coat in Missoula, Montana. If I haven't already said that in this video, I don't know, because I don't know what I've said already. I have some updates on the striped sweaters. Still going strong with the Olga sweater. I did in fact finish the short row shaping and the beginning back panel of the sweater. I am going to admit that I'm not knitting to gauge. I didn't want to make like a 4th fucking gauge swatch, so I didn't. But here is the back. So you start by casting on a bunch of stitches, and I've never done short row shaping like this. I've only ever done it on a raglan sweater. Here's the purl side. But like this is the cast on edge right here, this like red. And then you work back and forth and it creates this trapezoid that's really interesting. And then you give it some length. The short row shaping took me 1 knitting session, couple hours. And then over the course of 3 or 4 days, I did the 7 additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Anyway, I did the stripes, just the back and forth for like the length. Not exactly to gauge. I was torn about whether or not I wanted to do a medium or a large, how oversized I want it to be. So because it's like slightly off gauge, I'm doing a medium, but I know it's going to be more like a large. I started the shoulders and the front. So this is the back, this is like the upper back. One thing about me is I still don't know my rights and my lefts. I'm a 28-year-old woman and I still do not know my rights from my lefts. It is just not something that comes naturally to me. So I started to do the front and the shoulder shaping. You pick up stitches along the cast on edge. And as you can see, like the short row shaping, I have a lot of gaps that I don't think I did it right. And I don't like it, but it is what it is. So what you do is like, you pick up along the edge here, and then you create these 2 strips basically that come up over the shoulders. And so you want to shape the neck hole. I did it backwards. I had to completely rip it out and start over. And I just haven't had the courage to start over. Here's one of the shoulders currently in these little balls. But I'm going to do a little more research on how to pick up along this cast on edge, and then maybe how to close those gaps. I just don't know if that's possible. The pattern does not talk about doing the short row shaping any such way where it would like close those gaps. So I feel like maybe when I'm picking up the stitches, I'm just doing it wrong. I've tried a couple times now and the gaps are so bad. I just am like, more research needed, honestly. So I just wanted to show you guys my progress before I work on the next step. Excuse my interruptions. I'm just here to share some of my offerings with you. This video is not sponsored. I am an artist and I make a lot of different things. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm a multi-passionate artist. I work in a lot of different mediums. So I have a few offerings if you are interested in supporting this channel, like subscribe to all the things. But I also have products. If you would like to own a piece of my art, help me pay my bills and feed Cheese Cat, which you can see in my last video. He's like the main character around here. He actually runs the show. He's behind me holding like a mallet to my back, demanding that I make this video right now because he likes treat sticks, like specifically like the gooey churu treat sticks, and he's like, hey, inventory's kind of low, like get back to work. So Here I am. I offer things like drawings, painting and drawings. Here you can see like a painted box that I created, and I made a whole video about it, which like the little tag will be up here. I also am doing sketchbook tours, so every month I release one episode in the sketchbook tour series. There will be 11 total so far, and along with those I'm doing mystery drawing, so it's a 4x6-inch drawing, and you don't know what it will be, but it will be cool and beautiful, and there's different tiers. So complete mystery, you can choose a color or you can choose like a subject. I'll draw it, send it to you. I also offer the jewelry that I sell, so the videos that I make about jewelry, I offer them on my website, and sometimes I have things that I don't make videos about that you can see on my website. If you would just like to own a piece of left-handed alchemy art, you can do so via the link tree down below. Back to the video. I have to start over again. Let me be a testament to why you need to make a gauge swatch. Let me walk you through gauge swatch alley. First one, pristine. She's beautiful. She's a full-size gauge swatch. A full stitch too big. 4mm needles. It needs to be 10 stitches for 2 inches. It's 8. Go down to 3.75. 9 stitches, but needs 10. And at this point, I'm like, you know, it's fine. I'm just going to do it with 3.75 because I don't want to do anything that's too small. Part of me is like not wanting to stray from the pattern, even though it's more important to stick to gauge than it is to like stick to the suggested needle size. I'm like, forget about it, whatever. I knit all of this. It takes a few days, but I knit all of this. I wake up last night thinking about the sweater, thinking about how I have to start over because the gauge being off is really going to mess up the overall fit. It's going to be a lot wider than it will be long in a way that I just don't know because I've never knit this pattern before and I want it to be correct, at least for the first time that I'm knitting the pattern. I feel like knitting and cooking are a lot alike, where like you do something the first time, you want to do it correctly. You want to do it like the way that the recipe states, the way that the pattern states. And so by being off gauge, I already feel like I'm not, I don't know, doing the pattern the way it needs to be done. I knit another gauge swatch. Each time, oh, this looks really silly. Each time the gauge swatch is getting smaller and smaller. As you can see here, we did like a full quarter size, which, life hack. It says the amount of stitches for 10 centimeters or 4 inches, just do half of that. See, like how many stitches are in 2 inches? I have this little gauge thing that I got from my grandma. She's dead. I got it from her stash. As I measure this, 9.5 stitches for 2 inches needs to be 10. So I unfortunately, and I don't know if I mentioned, this is a 3.5mm needle. I think I'm going to have to do one more of these little swatches because I'm sure as heck not knitting another large one. What the heck? Dobby is a free elf. I'm going to knit another gauge swatch just so that it's freaking correct. You know what I'm saying? Do it right the first time instead of doing it a million times. I will say I've had to start over on the sweater so many times because I can't make up my mind, or I couldn't make up my mind. It was my decision to be lazy and not make 2 more of these that led me to having to start all of this over again. So let me be a lesson to you in just doing it right the first time. I am just trying to get it to be the right freaking size. Ribbit. You get it? Because, like, I'm frogging the sweater. Okay, and now we're going to bake that cake. We're gonna mix the ingredients back up. Thankfully, for this cake, you can repurpose the ingredients. So we're gonna bake it at like 375 for like 40 minutes, and then we're gonna let it sit and cool for about 10 minutes before we take it out of the pan, and then let it cool for like an hour before we ice it again, okay? So a life hack for all of you who are like me and you can't count, or you can count, you just lose track. You have a squirrel brain perchance, maybe ADHD if you want to give it some kind of clinical diagnosis. I don't know. Every 10 stitches or so, put a stitch marker, and then when you forget where you're at, you can just count your stitch markers, and then you just know it's like increments of like 10 or 25. And then here I am knitting. I find that this content's kind of boring to watch and make, so this is really all you're going to see of me actually knitting for this whole thing. have an update for you guys. Sorry about the ambient noise, it's the heater. So I had to start over once again, as you guys know. Showed you a little bit of that process. And then I just needed to get in the zone. I just needed to like get back to where I was. So in one day, I frogged the whole thing that I had made and cast on and did all of the short row shaping and like half of the length. So here's the back with the short row shaping. It's tied off, so you can't really like see the full gist of it because it won't expand entirely, but it's the full thing. It's 27.5 centimeters long. That took me another half day of knitting, and I was on a mission because I have started over this project so many times. It's like actually so annoying. I was just like on a mission. I was going to get back to where I was when I had to frog as fast as I possibly could. So for 2 whole days, I did nothing but sit at this exact chair and work on this sweater. Got the thing frogged, we got it recast on, we got the short row shaping done. I did the German short rows correctly this time. Did the length, 27.5 centimeters, great. Did the front and right shoulders, and did the shaping for the neck hole, and now I'm working on the length. It makes my hands and arm really sore, like deep into my left shoulder. It makes it really sore. So when I have knitting marathons, I sometimes have to take a couple days off. I took a break to rest my body, and I'm back at it. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update before I do the next bit of working. I have to be honest, filming myself knitting feels really awkward. I don't have like the best setup to be able to film like directly me knitting. And I also just get in the zone, you know? Hours of endless knitting footage to me sounds really boring. So the yappy updates is what you guys are gonna get. Here's what it looks like. It's on gauge, and I'm so paranoid it's gonna be too small, but it is on gauge. My tension, it's looking pretty good. I gotta be honest, my purling is not pro. I do not love to purl. I'm a continental knitter though, and I just haven't mastered the Norwegian purl. I just feel like when I'm holding it, I'm holding the yarn like this, right? And then when I'm purling, I'm having to go like this, like between each stitch. It's like up, down, up, down, up, down. And it's exhausting, and I feel like the tension's a little loose, and I don't love it. And I haven't practiced Norwegian purl yet. I need 18 stripes total to be the same length as the back, and I'm only on stripe 11. Yeah, halfway through stripe 11. So I have a little bit of room. I could practice, but because I've done it all one way, I'm nervous about changing my style and then therefore changing my tension and then everything being kind of like different, you know? But I'm so close to being at the point where I'm knitting in the round that at this point I'm just gonna like bear down and finish it how I've been doing it and save the new skills for another project, okay? Because despite the fact that the purling tension is just like a little bit different, it's so not a big deal because it will all block out and look totally fine. One shoulder, you can kind of see there's a few holes where I didn't cast on the shoulder exactly through the stitch like I should have. And then I learned my lesson so that on the second shoulder, it's pretty seamless. There's no holes. So that's a new skill. That's exciting and fun. New skill that I now have in my little noodle noggin book. My brain is dry today. I feel a little cuckoo bananas. I must admit, I am about to start my period in like any day, couple days now. And I'm having that experience where the middle of my brain feels physically dry, feels like it has never once known moisture or happiness. So it's kind of just, yeah, PMDD is fun. Let's talk about knitting a fucking sweater. First and foremost, this is the sweater that I'm working on. It's the, as I've said it 500,000 times, it's going well, the Olga sweater. It is going to be very oversized, which I like. I'm glad I didn't do a large. I'm glad I did a medium. I'm glad I went back and got the proper gauge and then did a size medium. I think it looks really nice and really clean. This yarn is really nice to work with. It doesn't split. Not a single stitch has been split, and that is a good feeling. So I think it'll grow when I block it, which is totally fine. I just lost a bunch of stitches. Okay. I'm fucking around with it too much. Very carefully. Very carefully. I'm so careful. My hands are so still. My needles are so accurate. And oh, yeah. Okay, I just successfully saved my stitches. You guys just almost saw disaster completely strike. So what I have left to do on this is the ribbing on the bottom. That's what we're gonna do today. And then 2 sleeves, obviously. And then the hood, like not hood, the collar of the sweater. We'll get some ribbing as well. So yeah, let's get into it. I knit this with 3mm needles. That's just what I had to use to get gauge, and it requires me to go down an entire millimeter in the pattern to do the ribbing. So I'm actually, my knitting needle set, the smallest one is actually a 3mm. So I'm gonna have to use like a completely different set of needles for this, which is really not a big deal. It's just that the needles that I'm using for this project are actually sock making needles, and okay, just a little update for you guys on the sweater. We are making progress. I don't know how the audio is gonna sound until I edit this. So just, there's a fire doing its fire thing, warming the house right there. It's loud to me, it's probably loud to you guys. Here it is, the body's done. And I have started on the sleeves. And I'm about to watch Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and maybe even the Deathly Hallows Part 1, because I'm having a girls' night. And by that I mean I'm all by myself tonight. I have all night to myself to work on this and fuck off. Just on a real note, I have been experiencing the deepest depression I've ever felt in my entire life over the last 3 days. I have PMDD. It's a result of severe childhood trauma, and I just don't really feel like trauma dumping on you guys. It's just the reality of complex PTSD. Hello, I have it. So this sweater is giving me something to do that is not thinking about, it's not even like thinking, it's just like, it feels like my brain is dry. It's like, I have purpose, I have value, I have people who love me, and yet my brain feels dry. I'm not going to do anything I'll regret, and I'm not going to do anything that will hurt the people who do actually love me. It's just not fun. It is not fun. Okay, just like a quick update. We are dang near done with baby girl right here. I have one last round of decreases on the sleeves, and I'm not doing it exactly to the pattern because when I try it on, I know a couple of things. First thing, this is 100% wool. This is my first time using 100% not superwash wool, and I am anticipating it to bloom a little bit. We'll be wet blocking this, and I know from previous experience with wool, albeit superwash wool, that the sweater tends to grow, which is what happens during the blooming process. The water absorbs into the fiber and expands it, relaxes the fiber so you can shape it and make it the size that you want it. I tried it on, following the pattern exactly for the length of the sleeve. It came down over my hand before I even did the cuff. It calls for 9 sets of decreases. I ended up doing 8 plus 2 extra rows. And then on the last row, I did the final decrease. And then I like a cuff that's a little more fitted to the wrist. So what I ended up doing was decreasing every 3 stitches. I decreased a total of 16 stitches around the whole thing. I switched to my red yarn, decreased around, and then I started my ribbing. And so the ribbing is in such a way where like, if I want to have a more like billowing effect, I really like a more fitted cuff and then a puffier sleeve, so it kind of has like a billowing look. I think that looks really pretty. I did that with the Morgan sweater. And then I knit it a little bit longer, so it's 20 rows of twisted 1x1 ribbing. And then if I need to, I can cuff it like this. And if it needs to be cuffed even higher, I can roll it up and it will cinch in, hopefully, the sleeve a little bit. So as of now, it fits a little short. And I'm hoping when it blocks, it will fit perfectly. And then if I have to block it again to like get the shape right, so be it. I think it'll be okay though. And the oversized fit is okay as long as it's not like too far over my hand. And designing it in such a way where I can roll it, hopefully will help with customizing the fit. I'm almost done with the second sleeve. I'm really hoping to get it done tonight. I'm gonna watch Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 because I've been rewatching all of those movies after reading a ton of Draco and Hermione fanfiction, and it's illuminating. I don't understand. Like really, I don't know why I fell into the Hermione ship. I think partly it is healing my masculine. I don't know what it is. Like there is something about the redemption arc for Draco that has been healing something within me. I'm reading one right now where, imagine this. Imagine Draco Malfoy was put into the House of Gryffindor instead of Slytherin. I love the man he's becoming. It is so fun. Fanfiction just like scratches an itch within me. And everyone is so creative. And I'm not saying that in a condescending, everyone is so creative. I mean it. I am so thankful for the people who write fanfiction because you guys are keeping me going. Reading a ton of fanfiction and then watching Harry Potter, I have to admit, the logical ship is Harry and Hermione. Like, how she ended up with Ron, I will never know and I will never understand. That does not make any sense to me, but I digress. I'm watching Harry Potter tonight and finishing the sleeve, and I will cast on the neckline. What is it called? What is it called? They're calling it the neck edge. I don't fucking know. The collar. I will cast on the collar of the sweater and hopefully get that done this weekend, but I don't know. The sweater will get done when it gets done, and you will be updated when it does. So, not one, but 2 sleeves. Finish! Beep, beep, beep. We're off Sleeve Island, and we are heading for the mainland. We're on the boat. They picked up our SOS. We're off Sleeve Island, okay? Sleeve Island is done, bitch. Did someone call the candy cane man? Because she's here. She's here. Next up, collar. Let's get her done. Hear ye, hear ye. The day has come. The day has come for me to be a little girl wrapped in a woolen sweater. It's finished. It's finished. After months of indecision, and then finally making a decision, and then starting and restarting and starting and restarting and stitching and bitching and crying and surviving, I have finished the Olga sweater by Petite Knits. She is done. She was fun, and it is time to wet block her and give her a chance at reaching her full glory. I want to show you guys the before and after, because here she is, fully knit, fully finished. Ding, 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 ding. I'm out of frame. Here it is. Toodaloo, toodaloo, the candy man has come. Did anyone order a candy cane? Here it is. Okay, anyway, the final step in the process of making a sweater is to block it. So that basically means to wash it, give it a good washing, get all of the dirt and the grease out of it. Every inch and piece and stitch and moment and second of the sweater went through my hands, like my greasy little grubby hands. I do my best not to eat and then stitch, but you know, like a girl do be eating popcorn, you know? And God knows where this yarn was before it even reached my hands. How many people at the yarn store touched these skeins of wool? I don't know. Aside from just cleaning the sweater and like getting the grime from your hands and like life out of the yarn, it also helps to shape it. As you can see, she's a little stiff. Soaking it in some water, some cool, tepid water, as they say on the internet, with some wool wash or some gentle detergent helps to open the fibers, bloom it, as they say, relax everything. And wool is very sculptable. So I will take you through the whole process of me blocking this sweater, the materials that I use, the time it takes to get it all done and put together. I'll show you it all. It is not the kind of garment you can just throw in the washing machine, throw in the dryer, and it comes out like a t-shirt. You know, it is something that requires a little more care, a little more effort in cleaning. But the thing about wool is it is antibacterial, antimicrobial. It is not something that I will have to wash even more than like once or twice a year, which is crazy to think about, but it is just the reality of natural fibers. They need a lot less washing to keep fresh and clean than a synthetic fiber. It just doesn't hold on to smells and funk the same way. And then if you do need to spot wash it, you spot wash it and you lay it flat to dry. And if and when it's cold outside, you can put your wool sweaters in the snow to clean them. You can put them in the freezer to clean them. It's just a lot higher maintenance when you do like a full hand wash cycle, but lower maintenance in between the washes. Here it is. You can kind of see it's like puckering here. It feels a little tight along the back where the drop shoulder seam is. This bottom rib wants to keep folding up. It's kind of got this like bacony effect. I anticipate it to get longer and wider with the process. Just, I find that my wool sweaters relax a lot and the sleeves will get a little bit longer and it'll just have like an overall nicer, more flowy drape to it. Here's the before. Here's the side. Here's the back. Here's the other side. And here is the front again. Get this bitch in the water, okay? Okay, so you're going to need some kind of basin to put your garment into that you'll fill with water. I chose a sink with a stopper so I can fill up with water. I'm using Dr. Bronner's Castile soap because I do not have wool wash that I like. I've used the Kookaburra wool wash a few times, but it has tea tree in it and I think it smells horrible. I hate it. So I'm using something unscented. And I'm just going to use I think I use like 6 drops in the whole basin. And then you fill the basin with cool water. You don't want it to be ice cold. I used ice cold. That was a mistake. My hands were physically in pain by the end of this process because it was really just too cold. So you want it to be cold enough that it's not going to promote the felting of your wool fibers, but like warm enough that you're not hurting yourself. Don't do that. You submerge it, and then I left it for I don't know, like the length of a movie. Kind of forgot about it. Rinse it out. Give it a good rinse, and then I filled the basin up again with clean water and let it soak again. And I did that 3 or 4 times just to get all the soap out. And then because I didn't use a conditioning wool wash, I then actually ended up using real hair conditioner. I have this Redken salon grade hair conditioner that you'll see me pop up on the screen here eventually. I don't know what clip it's in. But I squeeze all of the soap out that I can, being really careful not to agitate the fibers too much. And then I filled the sink up with 1 inch of water and mixed a good healthy squirt of conditioner in and just worked it into the fibers a little bit before filling the basin up with water again and just letting that soak for another hour. This was just a Saturday afternoon. You know, you can get this done in a couple of hours. It doesn't really have to take that long, and you don't necessarily have to condition your wool either. So once you have it all rinsed out, really thoroughly, you want to take a towel and wrap up your sweater just like so and give it a good stomping. Put those dogs to work. You want to get as much water as you possibly can out. So I do it 2, sometimes even 3 times. This time I did it twice. You know, you only have to do it once if you want, but I want this to dry before next week. So I put my dogs to work. You guys are getting this for free. My Venmo will be linked down below if you feel the need to pay for that show. And then once I squeeze it out 2 times, I lay it flat on a towel and I just shape it how I want it. I didn't show you guys that process. I didn't want to bring my tripod up to the house. But 2 days later, it was completely dry, and this is what it looks like. It's all finished. This is my reveal shot, my model shot. Like and subscribe if you think that I could be a model. Yep. Clothing model. Also really good at setting the scene. My husband's camping backpack is on the floor, and I'm not refilming this clip. So here it is. Here is the final thing, dry and on my body. Well, that was it. That was the video. Thank you so much for watching. I learned a lot, honestly, through the process of this. How important is a gauge swatch? Oh my God, it's vital. It does not matter what size needles you're using as long as you're at gauge. And I recognize a few things about myself. Maybe I'm just a loose knitter. Maybe my stitching is just big. And that's just something to accept about myself and understand going forward as I design knitwear and as I make other patterns. You know, the needle size that the pattern calls for doesn't matter. It's about the gauge and the way it fits, because if I had done it based off of that first attempt, this sweater would be gigantic. Like, too big, too short. I don't even know. It just, when in doubt, do another gauge swatch. Buy enough materials that you can do a few if you need to, or figure out your gauge and frog it. Or do half gauge swatches. That's something that I learned as a little hack. Just do a quarter gauge swatch. Doesn't have to be very big. My plan with all these gauge swatches in the future, sew them together, make a throw blanket or something. I don't know. It's worth it. It's worth the effort, because days of knitting going down the drain when it would have been like an hour at most to make another gauge swatch. We learned. Let me be your lesson in all of this so you don't have to go through the pain that I went through. Make the gauge swatch. It is annoying, but it is so necessary. Make the gauge swatch. Another thing I learned is I've just like been on this path personally. The power of decision making. I have a hard time making decisions, and I know I cannot be alone in this. So going back and forth between what pattern I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, and I kind of want to design my own sweater. I want to design my own stuff. I think that's very fun. So I'm just learning lessons too about like coming up with the plan, buying the yarn for the plan, and not having too much excess, because there's this whole thing with like consumerism within crafting that is like kind of uncomfortable. I've been on like a low consumption kind of mindset year where I'm really trying not to buy clothing specifically, because that is something that I will impulse buy, and I'm very picky. I'll find something that's not quite right about it and I'll never wear it again. So I'm kind of on a journey this year to make my own clothing and or learn how to modify and tailor the clothing that I do have that I don't wear to make it something that is part of my wardrobe, so that I'm using the things that I have bought and things aren't going to waste. Knitting has been really empowering to understand garment construction and how to make things. And then like you have this really cool thing that you spend a lot of time and energy on, and it's like way cooler than a sweater that you buy at the store. Totally stand by that. But while you're learning, if you have a design eye, like there's nothing wrong with that. But learn the structure of things. This is a lesson that I'm learning, is to take the time to learn the structure of the sweater so that you can go back and modify things as you see fit, because you know how it all goes together. And I say this during the video, I feel like knitting and sewing and doing anything that you're doing from a pattern, especially for the first time, if you're still learning and trying to understand how the stitches work and how the garment might lay and like the drape of a knit, or how like certain kinds of stitching works. Do it according to the pattern to see how it works, because someone who knows what they're doing, likely, hopefully, made the pattern. So you can hopefully kind of trust that maybe it's going to turn out right. And then you can see, okay, I don't really like the shape of that sleeve. I'm going to modify it this way. Oh, that kind of neckline is something I don't really like. I'm going to modify it this other way. And just having like repetition under your belt will make you a better designer going forward. And that's just something that I stand by in all of the crafts that I've pursued. Not like years when I was learning how to make jewelry, copying other people's work. And I stand by copying people. Here's the thing about it, you learn from copying. You have to like understand the heart of what you're doing and not be a jerk about it and try and sell other people's designs as your own. But like when you're learning, copy. That's what we're doing when we make other people's patterns. We're copying their work and doing it the way they're doing it. They're just giving us the formula to do it. Through that, we learn the structure of how to do it. If you want to, can take that and make it your own in some other ways. Like I knit enough sleeves that I don't like to be able to understand how to modify this one to make something that I like, and I love everything about this sweater. There's nothing that I want to change about it. I think for my next one, if I do another drop sleeve, I will consider how things lay and the shape of all of this, and I want to design a color work chart. I really like color work. I think it's really fun. So that's just something that I see myself doing. But we're heading into spring and summer, and I am desiring more lighter weight garments. So my current interests are more on the lines of sewing as opposed to heavy wool garments. So we'll probably return to knitting and fiber crafting of this nature later in the year. It was really fun. Once I made the decision, it went really fast. Honestly, I think it probably took a month to make this sweater, if that long, once I actually made the concrete decision of what I'm doing, and once I actually had my gauge swatch figured out. It really went very fast. It was very easy. The instructions, read all of them so you understand, hey, it actually did say German short rows when you get to the short row part. It just didn't say it in the actual line of now do the short rows. It was in a different part of the pattern. So make sure that you read the whole pattern before you start so that you understand the different parts that go into it and what you need to do. Don't be like me. Don't make the mistakes I did, because I do know how to read. I read a lot, but I'm understanding that maybe I skim more than I thought I did, especially when it comes to patterns. I learned my lesson, I would say overall, super easy to follow. I actually really enjoy Petite knit patterns. They make very accessible patterns, and they're not overpriced, and they're easy to read, easy to follow, easy to execute if you can actually pay attention and read a whole pattern and understand if you can read. Her patterns are easy foundational pieces to understand the structure of how to build something. So then if you are interested in designing yourself, you can have a background of knowledge in how to then go and self-draft your own pattern, which is something that I would like to get into in the future. But like I said, 5th sweater, still so much to learn. First time ever knitting a drop shoulder sweater. I've only done raglans up to this point. And the one other sweater that wasn't a raglan, we don't talk about her because I did that one out of acrylic and it literally just does not fit right. I need to steam block it, I think. I don't know. I just have learned I personally am not an acrylic yarn kind of person. Everybody is allowed to like the fibers that they like. If you love acrylic yarn, I love that for you. Really, I do. Do whatever you want. I'm not a fiber supremacist. I don't care what you knit with as long as you're knitting and having a good time and creating and using your creative energy to fulfill the internal need to create that most of us have. I mentioned in the beginning of this video, multi-passionate artist, I've dedicated my life to creativity, and it is something that I am very passionate about everybody being able to find in their lifetime. I used to table at events and sell my jewelry to the community. Pop-up tents, pop-up festivals, all of it, all throughout the state of Arizona. And a common thing that I would hear from so many people is, oh, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I can't even draw a stick figure, blah, 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 very self-defeating. It's very awkward. Honestly, when you say that to people, it's very awkward because the reality is everybody, every single person has the ability to create. We have just been programmed with the idea that creativity and creation has to look like creating a physical object or painting and drawing and doing things in the avenue of art. That is a creative avenue. Don't get me wrong, it's my personal preference for creative avenues, but I've been contemplating the nature of creativity and creation ever since I completed The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Highly recommend if you are just trying to break through into your creativity. Highly recommend giving this a go. It's a 12-week self-guided course. You do a lot of journaling and introspection. You show up every morning, do your morning pages, which is something I did before I ever learned about The Artist's Way, and it's something that I still continue to do almost 2 years later after having completed it. And it helps you break through a lot of blocks that you might be having around what creativity means to you and why you can or cannot be a creative person. I notice that a lot of people think that if they're not artists creating paintings and drawings or sculpting or whatever traditional forms of art might be, that they're not creative. Creativity is just the internal essence of who we are, being beings that were created by something out there. It doesn't matter what you call the grand poobah that you worship. Something created us, whether it was just energy, whether it was just an accident. There's some aspect of creation where we come from the dust. We come from minerals from the earth that our parents ate and then merged together, and then we were created in someone's body and then pooped out, and then we ate food and created more cells, and just like everything about us is constantly being created and destroyed at the same time until the day we die. And I think that there's something about that that is like truly within our essence as beings who are inherently creative. Creativity doesn't have to look like making art. It can look like music. Music is a creative act. That's also kind of more along the lines of traditional creativity, though. That's like something people think of. But something that I've been contemplating is different aspects of creativity. So I talked to somebody who's a very excellent conversationalist. I'm somebody who will not fight for the attention stage. I am a yapper, as you guys, like I make videos, I yap to strangers on the internet via my cell phone all the time. I can say things, I have a lot to say when I'm given the space to do so, but I'm not somebody who's going to fight to speak, because there's enough talkers out there who will be doing the fighting to speak. I'm just going to sit back and listen. I was talking to somebody who was saying, oh, I'm not very creative, but she was an excellent conversationalist. She was creating conversation. That is a creative act. Being able to create space for other people to be in, that's creativity. Whether it's like a book club or an artist group or just like a group of moms getting together and like sharing common woes of life and motherhood, like you are creating a space for like-minded people to gather. That's creativity. Gardening, cooking, problem solving. I was talking to another woman who's in the tech industry, and her thing is like she does a lot of speaking and events. She's like, oh, I'm not very creative, but she creates problem solving daily. She solves problems for her clients daily using creative solutions to get the job done. It does not have to look like a tangible outcome to be creative. But when you manifest something out of nothing, that's creativity. I just want to plant that seed in your head if you're somebody who feels like, oh, I don't come up with my own ideas, I'm not creative, I copy other people's blah, 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 insert your craft or your whatever here, I'm not that creative. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You watched this video and you watched me create a sweater, which means you're at least halfway interested in the process of creating a sweater. Whether you yourself are a knitter and you're just like intrigued by the Olga sweater, or you're just like some person who clicked on this video for whatever reason, you were interested enough to watch the creative process, which means there's an urge within you to create. If you do not believe within yourself that you are able to create, I want to challenge that for you. And I want you to get creative with what you define creativity as. I think as you develop that for yourself and uncover those little pieces, you might be able to blossom in your own ways of creativity. I really do believe that the future is like a creator's economy, a world of AI, and where the computers are generating and creating content for us. The novelty will be back with the human-made things, the human-produced ideas. We can use AI as tools to do things, to make our lives easier. I'm certainly not anti-AI, but I am empowered through AI to see that there's opportunities to open new avenues with like human-centric creativity, because that is the novelty. That is not something you can press a button and have. And so I want you to be empowered in your own creativity, however that manifests. With that being said, I'm gonna leave you guys to have the rest of your day to do whatever you would like. Go to sleep, start your day. I don't know what you're doing right now. Let me know. What are you doing? What do you have going on for the rest of the day? What ways do you create? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear how you create. Are you crafty? Are you artistic? Or are you one of those magic conversationalists? Like you can talk to anybody. I envy you. Genuinely, truly. I am so very socially awkward. I cannot create conversation very easily. So I admire people like you who have skills that I don't have. Just like you maybe admire me who have skills that you don't have. We're all just people sharing our gifts and getting by and living life for the first time. So thank you for being here. If you'd like to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. That's all free. Like you saw in my little ad mid-roll. That's my first time doing this. I've never done that before. You can find anything that I'm offering down in the link tree in the description of this video. So I have art, drawings, paintings, jewelry, who knows? When you find this video, I might have other stuff that I'm offering. I don't know what the future holds. Just practicing, sharing the creative process with you, and sharing what it looks like to have a dedicated life of creativity. And I still have my sea legs. I still doubt myself sometimes, but, you know, I'm still showing up and doing it scared anyway. So, with peace and love, see you next time, friends.